All right, welcome back, future fire breathers. I'm joined today by one of my mentors, I would say, in business, as Stu Smith, and he's also a former U.S. Navy SEAL, a former frogman for the U.S. Navy SEAL. So I won't speak for him. I'll let him do it all by himself. Stu, why don't you introduce yourself? Just give a little bit of background about you.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm in the fitness business, so I
Yep.
work out and write about it for a living, and been doing that for almost 20 years now. So I write articles on the web and some magazines, but I've also created books and ebooks, and I typically focus on the tactical fitness genre. So we're looking at military, law enforcement, firefighter, fitness programming for those groups where fitness can be the difference between life or death for
Hmm.
somebody. Whether
Exactly.
it's the person, it's your buddy, or it's someone you're trying to save, one day that may be the common denominator that saves a life. And so we take it that seriously, here, and try to get other people to understand um, that it's not just a job that you couldn't find a place to work before that you go
Yeah.
do. This is a calling, this is a profession, and it
Mhm.
is important to actually maintain a certain level of fitness so you can do your job well and serve the way you want to.
Exactly. This is not like some job you find at McDonald's or something. This is where you're putting your life on the line and you're sacrificing yourself. So you got to
Yeah,
be physically fit for it too. So
sure.
let me ask you this: what made you want to get into the U.S. Navy? I mean, that's a pretty big decision for anybody. Like, what made you really want to get into that?
You know what? I didn't really have a lot to think about on it.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to serve when I was a kid.
Okay.
I even when I was 7, 8 years old, I was playing GI Joe and Frogman, and just playing war games. It was just kind of what I did. And I had some friends that did the same, and um, we just played. But I didn't really put it, as like a true option until high school when I saw all the different routes that you could get in to serve. And I found one that I thought would work really well for me because I was an athlete in high school. I wanted to play
Hmm.
sports in college. Um, and through West Point and the Naval Academy and Air Force, all the service academies, you could kind of do both.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, man, that is just everything I want right there. I want to serve when I finish college. I want to play some sports in college, and I mean, it all just worked out. So I was very fortunate to work hard those last few years of high school, perform well enough to be able to get accepted into the Naval Academy, and kind of the rest is history after that.
Wow, look at that, man. How long have you been in the Navy before retiring?
Oh well, you know what? I didn't spend 20 years in the military. I was in for 8 years. Once I graduated the Naval Academy, I spent from 91 until 99
Okay.
in the Navy. And prior to 9/11, it was a different world.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a different world, and a lot of people were getting out in the late 90s. Economy was good, military was downsizing. I had a series of injuries, had a child born a year before, so it just seemed like a perfect storm for me to make a transition. And there were other things I wanted to do at the time as well, and so I spent 8 years in the military.
Okay, nice, man, nice.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the biggest learning point that you gained from the military? Was it the fitness aspect of it or the mindset? Or did you have that before going in?
Well, I think everybody has a certain dose of that going in, but I
Mhm.
think going through Navy SEAL training definitely heightens that ability, whether it
Mhm.
is a mental focus accomplishment ability that you've kind of perfected, or it is a certain level of fitness that you can endure a high level of discomfort, and still be able to perform. So it's a little bit of a good combination between that mental focus, that self confidence, training methodologies that all kind of yield into this world of discipline and mental toughness, if that
Mm.
makes sense. So I would
Yeah,
put
that was
all of
great.
that together in one big ball and say, this is this is this is how I grew in the military.
That's awesome, man. You wrapped it up so perfectly, nice into a little bow. It's like I
Oh,
can just
thank
repeat it
you.
like that. So I know you're coaching other military guys that are coming in right now. What would you
Yes.
say is the biggest difference from when you started off with the new generation of recruits? Is there a big, vast difference, or
Nope.
what would you
I don't
say?
see any difference. I'd be
Okay.
honest with you. I don't see a lick of difference. And because here's a weird thing, because every time I work out with these guys, and these are my workouts that I invite people to join me on.
Hmm.
I make them hard so it's a good preparatory program for whatever their goals are. Um, and they're the same conversations I had when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, just with different faces.
Mm,
Same person, just a different face. And there it gives me hope for the future
that's good,
because
man.
for the last 20 years I've been coaching, and
Mhm.
I have seen people who want to serve still, even though they know their first deployment is going to be in Afghanistan or Iraq or some other place where there's a war going on. And
Mhm.
my numbers never dwindled, going through that, 20 years of war. More and more people wanted to serve at a young
Mhm.
age. And, like I said, I don't see the snowflake. I don't see where people are making fun of the younger generation. I
Yeah.
admire them. I
Mhm.
revere them, because they are going into a world that they know it is dangerous, and
Mhm.
I am thankful that I have just a little part of their journey and making them a little bit better tactical athlete.
That's awesome, Stu. I know right now a lot of people are saying otherwise. They're saying us millennials, we don't have what it takes to be sacrifice our lives and everything. So it's a different viewpoint that I'm getting for you. That's good.
I don't see it. I do
Okay.
not see that millennial. And even I see kids like my daughter, she is
Mhm.
not going to serve, but she killing it in college,
Nice.
just killing grades, and she's got a job, after college already. And I mean, just a high performing woman. And, that's that she's just 22 years old, and, I see high performers all around me, and like I said, they all give me hope for,
That's
for
good,
where we're
man.
going.
It's just about perspective change too, right?
Yeah, I think everybody, you know, um, will come across a deadbeat here and there, and doesn't
Mhm.
matter what generation it is, But you can't stereotype, you know, one particular group, because there's always a group of that group that will do what is needed to get the job done
Mhm.
and serve others.
Exactly. That is a good point, my man. Yeah. And so, what got you into the whole coaching field? I know from you said 91 to 99, you were in the military,
Yep.
and then you wanted to do coaching for the past 20 years. What was that spark that made you want to do it? Was it
Well, you
giving
know
back
what?
to
I
people?
I was given the opportunity after a first and second tour of, post buds and SEAL teams and all that stuff. I was able to
Mhm.
go back to the Naval Academy and be an instructor. And I did that mainly as a give myself a break. Um, um, and I just got married, so it was nice to live in the same state with my wife
Mhm.
for a while. And I went there mainly with the idea of if I miss it, I will go back.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed being a coach, a mentor. I ran a program there that was for all the future SEALs that were going, and we had about 20 every year that went to SEAL training, and probably had to screen it down from like 100, get down to 20 good candidates. And so I would run that program, and I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a coach and seeing people improve. And it wasn't necessarily all the high end guys either. I was
Mm,
also put in charge of the group that failed the fitness test and didn't
mm,
pass the swim test. And so that was a collateral duty of mine. And I tell you, I found so much more reward in getting someone to pass a fitness test so they didn't get kicked out of the Naval Academy, or they passed a swim test so they could graduate from the Naval Academy. And that was that had a completely different feeling. I'd never really thought about a spectrum of fitness that
mm,
you could get involved in, and not only help the advanced guys go from 10 pull-ups to 25 pull-ups,
mm.
run 6-minute miles, but you could get somebody to get their first pull-up and lose 100 pounds. And that has been a very rewarding part of the last 20 years of dealing with both ends of the spectrum.
That's awesome, man. I know a lot of people, they love coaching a lot more than when they're actually doing the service, because it's more rewarding for them too. I know like laying down your life for everyone, especially in a war, is rewarding in itself, but like doing it for other people, just something else entirely, which is good.
Yeah, and I always tell people, I try to help people prepare for their dream job, and whether it is an average kid that wants to be above average and
Mhm.
try special ops, or it's the kid that's 100 pounds overweight and never did any athletics in his life and he wants to join the army and
Mm,
just be an army guy. And both are equally rewarding.
that's good, man.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the PT test. I know you're really focused in on that. That's your specialty. But a lot of people, when they go through the whole physical testing and they fail the first time, would you say it's more of a fitness thing or maybe a mindset thing that they have
Hmm.
to pick something up in there, or is it fitness
Well,
wise?
I would say this: most fitness tests, if you look at them, you will look at them and say, "Oh, that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
I can pass that." But you never practice it, and you never really create your own little strategy for better performance of it. And then you go take it the first time and you fail it.
Mm.
Right? Because there's a strategy to it. Like a 2-minute sit up test is real easy to fail if you go out in the first 30 seconds and sprint out 35 sit ups in 30 seconds. It's a good chance that you won't match that in the next minute and a half and fail at 60 sit ups, for instance. Whereas if you just slowed your pace down and get 20 in the first 30 seconds, 20 in the next 30 seconds, you got 40 in a minute. You can get 80 in 2 minutes without even changing anything. I've had people fail with 60 one day, come back the next day and pass with 80 just by me
Wow.
telling them that. So there's a lot of things that you can learn about, practice, by practicing the actual test in order to perform well, or order to perform well above average, so you can qualify for some of the more competitive programs that are out there.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good, man. And I know a lot of people, when they're coming in to the whole military, they got this certain kind of belief with them that, I'm still want to go serve my country, but I'm also scared to do it. So what's your advice to give to them, you know?
Huh. Well, you know what? I mean, I think no matter what transition you're going to go for in life, whether that would be out of high school and join the military, out of high school, go to college, whatever that next transition is, it's always scary,
Okay.
right? It doesn't have to be a military level scary, right? It could just change is scary. And, I just tell folks that, this is just part of life, and you've done everything you can to get to this moment, right? Just look at the last couple of years. You've really worked hard so you can qualify to do this,
Mhm.
right? Now, the time here's where the work comes in, because you got to now up your game, because getting to the training is not the same as getting through the training. And that goes
Oh.
for anything. Whether you are going to basic training, you're going to SEAL training, or you're going to college, getting to college is not the same as getting through college. You
Mm-hmm.
still have to learn how to study at a higher level. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a lot more expected out of you. You got to perform at a higher level. Same for the military and special ops programs. You're now going to be in a high stress situation, um, and you now have to perform at levels that you've never performed before, and you're with a bunch of strangers that you don't know, you're all living in the same barracks, and you got to slowly start to make friends, and none of that is easy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's natural to be scared of that change. So I just say, look, here's what you're going to have to prepare for, no matter what that is. And once you kind of realize what's in front of you, and then you also know people who've done it, you've seen people do it, and there's really powerful, that comes something really powerful comes out of seeing is believing. Once you
Mm-hmm.
see people make it through that, and they're this Navy SEAL guy or special ops guy or Army Ranger, whatever that is, college graduate. You see people do that. You can now say, well, he did it, she did it, I can do it too. And so that is the big challenge of for me is getting people who are obviously anxious about change
Mm-hmm.
is to just understand that that is natural, and there really are two phases to what you're trying to do. You did everything right to get to this moment. You now
Mm-hmm.
have an opportunity to go serve. You have an opportunity to go increase your education, go to college, learn a skill, whatever that is. And now it's time to go do it. Up your game, go do it.
I know you always say that it's not my job to motivate you to serve your country.
New.
So yeah, so that's definitely hitting home on that point too. And it's kind of like that 4 minute mile with Roger Bannister. Once
Yep.
you see someone do it, you just gotta keep leveling up, right?
Yep. Everybody starts breaking 4-minute miles once it's been accomplished. Yep.
So I want to talk to you about something else. Jim Edwards, I was listening to a episode of his. He was talking about GORUCK and all that stuff, and he said he met you in one of those GORUCK events. So how that happened to you? How'd you end up at GORUCK?
You know what? I never really have done anything like as far as an instructor with GoRuck.
Okay.
I met the folks at GoRuck over the years. Um, I think I did one of their obstacle course races they created.
Okay.
The Nasty Nick, I think they called it. Can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a great obstacle course race done on this mountain range, and it was so hard. I mean, it
Yeah.
was it was killer. And I went to that and hung out with a lot of the guys. And from there, I've always been um, I've always rucked. In fact, we do something very similar. We call them our Spec Ops triathlons. Where we
Okay.
do a run, swim, and a ruck.
Jesus.
For our event. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so it's pretty good. So we run 4 miles,
Yeah.
we ruck 4 miles, and then we swim a mile. As part of our triathlon. And it's a good little challenge. So I've always been kind of in the ruck world, and I've created programmings for people who wanted to get better at rucking. So I guess that's how I kind of got into the Go Ruck world, so to speak. They were kind enough to send me a lot of their sandbags and backpacks, and I featured them in a book of mine called Tactical Fitness.
Wow.
We've always had this mutual relationship where if they needed something, I'd help them. If I needed something, they helped me, and we self promote each other.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who would you say has the more harder workouts, yourself or GORUCK?
You know what? I've never done a go ruck personally. I mean, those things are
Oh.
big. Those are big gut checks. They're
Mm,
pretty challenging. So, I've seen people's feet falling off
Jesus.
doing go rucks, and I can't say the same happens to me, um, or any of my guys. So, I think it's just a different style of working out. It's a hard ruck. Anytime you're rucking and lifting logs and working together as a team, that is a very big, um, uh, it's very good for that kind of skill set, as you're preparing for very similar selection programs, because it's really kind of modeled after Army Forces,
Yeah.
special ops, selection programs. So, I'm all for it. I think whatever gets people excited about fitness is great. It's a big fitness world out there, and we all have our lane where we are comfortable in, and like I said, it's a big world out there for fitness, and I don't compete with anybody. I do
All
my thing.
right.
I do my thing, and they do theirs, and you know, um, I think everybody wins if they can do that.
Exactly. Because you guys are just doing the same thing for people, right? Just helping them reach a better version of themselves.
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. And GoRuck, they have a good segment of their customers that are preparing for military service as well as I do. I also have regular folks that just want to work out hard and get in good shape and lose 40 pounds and live a healthier life. So that they have the same type. So, it just depends on the person on what they like to do. Some people prefer to work out in a gym or their home gym or with a pull up bar, and some people prefer to work out with 20 other crazy people with a backpack and a log and go nuts. Nothing wrong with either one of them.
I know. I'm not even too sure which one is me. I think you got me on the other side, Stu.
Yeah,
So a couple questions before I leave you off here, Stu. If you
sure.
had to give one piece of advice to yourself 20 years ago, where you are now, what would be that one piece of advice?
Well, you know what? I kind of went into it a little bit.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I teach that whole to and through the training phase, and
Mm-hmm.
I use it with my tactical fitness phase training. So the first phase of tactical fitness is you got to get to the training. You have to pass a fitness test.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a competitive fitness test, you got to pass it with very high marks. Then you got to prepare yourself to get through the training. Um, and that will be specific to what you're trying to endure. Is it SEAL training? Is it Ranger training? Is it college? Is it a particular engineering degree? Whatever that is. Um, you have to prepare yourself mentally and physically for that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And then phase 3 is the actual job itself and maintaining your physical ability so you can do your job. Also, there's a component of just pure stress mitigation. So the things that you see, you can work through and not have them affect you psychologically, which can happen. Um, so, there's 3 phases to tactical fitness. I kind of focus on that phase 1 and 2 mainly.
Okay.
Um, and that is what I did not do when I went to the Naval Academy. I had spent
Oh,
years getting to the Naval Academy. And when I showed up at Naval Academy, um, I failed my first fitness test.
mm.
I I didn't make the football team, and I was failing like half of my classes academically. So by Thanksgiving, I was a mess,
Oh my God.
complete mess. And I went home and I was just crying to my parents, and my mom just talked to me very nicely and just said, "Well, why are you staying there? Why don't you just quit?" And I was like, "I can't quit." And she was like, then quit crying about it and let's figure out how to get through
Wow.
this. And um, that was very powerful. And that's when I realized that I did really good job at phase 1 of training.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the training, but I didn't do a very good job at all. And it took me a good year to kind of bounce back from that first 5 months, 6 months of purely being a horrible student, to figure it out. And by the time I took my second fitness test, I maxed it. So I
Mm.
started seeing progress, right? And so there was one check off the box I could pass physically, and then it was academics, and I started passing my scores. I never failed anything, right? Um, and then I took it up to the next level where I realized that I could play another sport. I played rugby, and there were 4 or 5 guys on every year that wanted to go SEALs. And, I saw them go there. I saw who they were. I really respected them. They're a couple years older than me, and then they made it through. And that just motivated me to say, you know what? This isn't impossible. I can do this. And, built myself up over the next couple of years to a level where I was a competitive candidate and able to go to SEAL training with another 20 of my classmates. So,
Wow.
and by the way, buds is a pretty big attrition rate, right? About 80, 75, 80% of the class does not make it through.
Jesus.
We sent 20 people from the Naval Academy my
Yeah.
year, and all 20 of us made it.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is an accomplishment, man.
Yeah.
Especially with 87 to 97%, they don't make it. And with you guys, 20,
Yeah.
all
So
of you
we
guys
crushed
made
it.
it.
We crushed it. We were a tight group, and we're still tight.
Oh,
And
man.
went there and really put out together and got it done. So anyway, that was my journey, and if anything I were to tell myself, when I was 18 years old, I would say you did a good job getting to this point, but
You
there's
gotta get
you got
through.
to up your game. You got to up your
Yeah.
game if you want to take it to the next level. And I didn't
Mm.
realize I needed to up my game. I thought
Oh,
I was just like the man and good to go. And that was a kick in the butt.
so always be leveling up once
Yeah.
you're at a point. There's no certain destination. It's all about a journey, right?
Yes. Yep.
Got it. Got it. That is some good piece of advice, man. I'm gonna use that for my business journey too.
Good.
I like that. Might have to frame that up on a quote over here. So, last question before I leave you off here, Stu. Where do
Sure.
you see yourself 5 years from now? Either in business or fitness,
You know what?
whatever.
I hope to be doing the exact same thing I'm doing.
Okay.
I enjoy coaching. I enjoy writing about it, and I want to continue that. My kids will be, my one daughter will be gone, uh, you know, moving from the house. She's graduated college. My son's a junior in high school. So 5 years from now, he'll be gone. So I look forward to traveling around with my wife and going to see where they are and just having fun,
All
but
right, man.
still doing my thing and, working out and writing about it. And you never know how, technology drives you. I never would have thought I would have had social media accounts that are a very big part of my business.
Mhm.
But I do. I would have never thought that, websites and blog posts and articles were going to be a big part of my business. I thought I was just going to sell books,
Mhm.
but now you have to diversify and you never know where. So I plan on staying flexible, watching the technology change how we do business
Okay.
and try to be on the front end of that.
Okay.
2 years ago, I didn't have a podcast. I've done 170 podcasts now.
Wow. In 2 years, 170, eh?
Yeah.
My God. You are a hustler. I like it.
So,
You also
like I
got
said,
a raving Instagram
yeah,
account too.
I saw a real easy platform to, figure out how to make podcasts. And I said, let's do it, so yeah.
Well, thank you
What's
for your
next?
time today.
Yeah, man. Thank you. What's next? I don't know. I just know I'm just going to keep on moving. Don't let
Okay.
the grass grow under my feet, in other words.
I like that, man. I like that quote too. Don't let the grass grow under your feet. Might have to frame that on another quote. I just get a whole picture frame of just Stu Smith's quotes over here.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, Stu, thanks again for your time today. I appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.
All
And
right.
thanks again.
Thank
Take
you,
it easy.
sir. I
No
appreciate it.
problem.